Uh, no countdown. What's up, Crashed It Nation? This is Jonathan Wood. We're here with season number 4, episode number 6, and here comes Johnny Waller. I've got him live on the podcast. Thanks for coming on, John.
Hey, thanks for having me, Jonathan. Appreciate it.
All right, hey, if you're whenever you get on here, just comment, let us know that you're watching. Just any feedback's always appreciated. Thank you all for all the support that you keep on showing the pages and the channels. We really appreciate each and every one of you. A lot of you don't know, I met John Waller different than I've met most of the drivers. He actually approached me at Mocane, Missouri, and he asked me if he wanted if I wanted a live video from in the car. And I said, "Oh, you got a GoPro?" He goes, "No, I'm just going to jump in a mod compact car and I'm going to record this thing for you." And I go, "Sure." I thought he was crazy. I thought he was just screwing around with me. And then the mod compacts pull out, and there he is in Logan Adams' car holding his phone up. And I go, "Holy smokes." And then he sends me the videos immediately after the show. And I actually posted those up on the YouTube channel later on. But I want to say that's just the kind of guy that John is. He's a very approachable guy, and he's someone that approaches people and tries to better the sport. And John, I want to ask you, how'd you get involved in demolition derby and figure eighting?
Well, Hans and Beth Anderson posted the schedule up at our church, and I asked him about it. I said, "What is this figure eight racing?" And he said, "Come check it out. We use compact cars on me. You're kidding me. Like something like this actually exists." He's like, "Yep." And so I think my first race was in 2023. I went to the season opener in Russellville. And I remember it was cold and rainy, and my kids, they were out there for like 5 minutes and then they just packed it up and they were in the car the rest of the time. But I wasn't going to leave. I was there for the whole show because I was like, this is amazing. And so I just turned the car on, turned the heated seats on, gave them a device, and let them rip. And I stayed all the way through the powder puff, and it was great. And I had a friend with me, and I told her, I said, I'm gonna do this next year.
Yeah. And that you did. So take us through the process. So when you approached me, you said, "Man, I will jump in anyone's car. I brought my helmet." And so did you like arrange rides with people, or were you just walking around the pit area like Carl Edwards with his helmet on? Like, how'd that go down?
So that all started. If I could backtrack just a little bit, Hans invited me to races, and then I ended up coming into the pits, and seeing the cars, and me coming from a carpentry background, that's super intimidating. Like I'm like, this stuff is wicked. The things that these guys do to these cars is wicked, for lack of a better term. And at that time, I found out you can ride in them. Once I got into the pits, he had his neighbor was with him, and that dude didn't come back. And he rode one time, and I think he got hurt a little bit, and so he didn't come back. And then There was another guy that Hans had riding with him, and he was a guy that he met in the trades. He met this guy at his home, and Hans Anderson is a wonderful soul. And he invited this guy to come figure eight race with him, and just he has such a love for the sport, Hans does, and he wants it to grow. So he invites people into his car so that they have an interest in it. And when my opportunity came to ride in it, I was super excited. And once I did that first ride along with Hans, I was like, I am hooked. I am definitely getting a car. And then I rode with Hans. I think it was in Fulton. I'm not 100% sure, but there was like it might not have been Fulton because there was a lot of heat races. There was like 9 heat races that night. And I
Yep.
said, Hans, we did the first heat race, and he said, well, wait for the B main. I said, that's it. And he's like, yeah. And I said, there's got to be more, So I started asking guys if I could ride with them, and yeah, that's how that started. I'll keep jabbering, but
Well, that's good. Uh, yeah. And then, so let's talk about your first car. So you started driving last year. Um, at when did you start driving? You didn't complete the full season last year. You started kind of halfway through, right?
yeah, last year was a thinking process. I felt like I needed to be in the derby community for a purpose. And so I started riding with a bunch of guys and asking them about their builds, how long they got in it, how much money they got into it. And I was like, man, I don't even think this is even possible. And then I met Tracy Snurich and that IMR team, and found out that she had her car Pinky for sale. And I was like, this is my opportunity, this is my chance. And so I purchased it.
Yeah. So the car that everyone sees on their screen right now is Pinky, a well-known car built by Tracy Snurridge and the IMR team. And tell us about Pinky. Um, what kind of car is Pinky? Talk about the process that you had to go through in acquiring Pinky.
So Pinky is a '97 Cavalier, and the way I found out about Pinky uh, being for sale is Hans sent me a link on Marketplace for a car that was already stripped out, already had a cage in it, for 350, because I was like, man, I can't do this. I can't afford this. I can't even. I don't know how to weld. I've been working, with framing houses and finished carpentry and tile and drywall and all that. I don't know the first thing about metal work. And so he sent me a link, and I bought the car, and he came over and looked at it, him and Beth, and they picked it apart. They're like, well, if you want to run figure eight, and worthy bail bonds, you got to put a radiator protector in it. You got to put this in it. This cage sucks, all this stuff. And then they had family business to take care of, and they were out of communication for like a week. And I wanted to get this ready for Turkey Festival. That's when I wanted to run this car. And so I was like, well, I was out dove hunting with my dad, and I knew that the IMR team worked out of Integrity Motors. So I stopped by, and this is a funny story because Tracy actually met me outside, and she was kind of standoffish, like, "Can I help you?" Because this derby community, these guys, until they get to know you, they're kind of protective, and so I explained to her, I was like, hey, I just bought a car, and she was like, I know. And I was like, well, I got a lot of work I got to do to it. And she was like, I know that too. And I'm like, okay. And she was like, yeah. And so I asked her if I could look at what they had, to try to, you know, do at least the bare minimum to be able to get on the track. And so she took me out and took a look at a couple of cars. Asked her if I could take a couple of pictures. I asked her, and she gave me permission to take pictures. And she mentioned that Pekin was for sale.
Yeah. And you ended up purchasing it. And so let's talk about, you have a pretty cool paint job,
Mhm.
and you have real big across your car. For anyone that's listening to this on Spotify later and is driving down the road and don't want to watch the video version. Um, you've got Romans 116 painted it all the way across your car, real
That's
big
right.
where the crowd can see it. And tell us about the paint job.
About the paint job or the meaning behind it? The paint
The
job I
meaning
did at the
behind it,
track.
your number, like your number.
Yeah,
What does it
so
mean?
I became a Christian 9 years ago, and at the very beginning of my journey, I like all types of music. I'm a huge music fan. I got an AC/DC shirt on. Shout out to my buddy Ricky Bobby. That's why I picked this shirt to wear. AC/DC baby. Um, but going into the Christian world, I discovered the whole Christian music genre and then how it's categorized in different things like contemporary Christian, country Christian. There's a rap Christian, and I found out that there's a rap group called the 116 Click, and it's comprised of Lecrae, Andy Mineo, 1K Feud, What Up RG. I'm super into music, and I actually saw these guys perform a couple of times. And the meaning behind Romans 1:16 is the Bible verse states that I will not be ashamed of the gospel of Jesus. It is the power of God who saved all who believe. And I believe in the gospel, right? And so I like to share the gospel message that, being a Christian sums up to this. I am a sinner. I know I'm a sinner and I am needed and in need of saving. I know that I was created for a purpose, and my creator loves me and provides all of my needs. And that's basically
Yeah,
what it means to me.
yeah, and I love that. Like figure eight drivers, you see, there's multiple people that have verses on their cars, and
Yeah.
it's really great because I wonder how many of those people in the stands may, you know, have that same effect that that Tim Tebow effect when he was in the NFL. You know, all of his fans they looked up John 3:16 just because of what he had on his face, and I think you're doing the same thing with the figure eight world. That's pretty cool with the paint job
So if I
and the
could
meaning
interject
behind it.
here, if I could interject here, I love this particular picture because it's got Hans Anderson right behind me flying that Christian flag, and I'm passing in front of him. And that picture was taken by oh shoot, Benton Twisted Media. Shout out to Bit and Twisted Media. They do a great job of capturing pictures and videos for us, just like you do, Jonathan. And I really appreciate what she does, and I love seeing them when they come out. I'm anticipating seeing the videos coming out from Bit and Twisted Media here shortly, within the next day or so, I believe.
Yeah, yeah, they do a great job over there.
So
And
go
um,
ahead.
so you bought Pinky
Yeah.
and you started looking the car over. Uh, did you learn a lot just by purchasing the car and looking, getting it at your house and looking through it?
You cut out a little bit. I missed part of that.
Oh, did I? I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I asked if you learned a lot from the build, just by looking over Pinky when you bought it.
Yeah, I actually learn more and more every day that I look at her. You know, what these guys do, the IMR team, the way that they build cars, it's a tremendous effort, team effort, family effort. And that car was built with love. Tracy Snurich has a love and a passion for this sport, and she has a love and a passion for her family. And you can feel the love in that car. I just get a sense of honor, even being able to purchase her and drive her. Tracy rode around with me on the my very first race. You see that picture right there, that's Tracy in the passenger seat. um I'll be forever grateful and thankful for her and the entire IMR team.
Yeah, they kind of just helped you out. Look like really get you in there and learn all about the car, and you don't get that from everybody, and that was really cool. And the first race that I believe your first race was Eldon, right?
Yeah, Turkey Festival.
So at Eldon, everybody knows my daughter drives the youth races and stuff, and we walked back there, and you were duct taping your steering wheel to all get out, and she goes, "What
Yeah.
is that guy? What is that guy doing?" And Corey Burton says that's a good picture, probably because he's out in front
Yeah.
of you right now.
Well, in that picture, he's saying that because I tore out his rear end in that picture. I apologize.
But
I'm kind of like your
yeah,
daughter.
she
I'm
was.
like, oh, sorry.
Yeah, so you were taping up your steering wheel, and
Yeah.
she asked me. She goes, "What is he doing?" And I said, "He's taping his steering wheel up so his hand don't get caught, or he don't break his wrist if he takes a bad wheel shot, or um, sometimes people get their hands caught up in the wheel or put themselves in a position to." And I've
Yeah.
been guilty of doing that a couple times, but I've never suffered the bad things from doing it. But um, so that was a
it
cool
has its
little
pros and
pointer to
cons.
her.
Yeah.
So she goes, I want my steering wheel taped up. I can't afford to be breaking my wrist.
Yeah, I've actually broken my hands twice, so I can't take any risk in that. But for me, it was harder to steer. I had to use two hands because I could not use the ball in my hand. Tracy Snurch actually told me that because I had it taped up for the first three events that we had last year, and she was like, "You shouldn't do that." She said, "You're making it harder on yourself. You can't use the ball of your hand." She's right. For your daughter, it's probably different because you're probably running the brake for her, aren't you?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so she can do both hands, right? My only other alternative would be to get an aftermarket steering wheel that has a concave, shape like the Derby drivers do, like Tyler Ray has. I saw his. I really like his.
Yeah. Oh yeah. There's all kinds of different aftermarket parts that you can buy uh, in the sport of demolition derby, and a lot of the figure eight guys. You roll by their cars, and you're starting to see the parts being built by like T1 Fab, and there's the guys building parts for these things. That if anyone's watching that's interested to know, like, man, I wonder if I could buy like the whole setup. And you could buy the best of the best parts, but you still got to learn to drive.
Oh yeah. Or
So,
instinctively know how to drive.
so whenever your first race, it was probably the most energetic of anybody I've ever seen signing up for multiple classes with one car. So,
Dude,
walking through how many different times did you register that car that first race?
twice.
Was it two times? Okay,
Yeah,
then
I
it was
did
three
heat two and
times
heat
at
five.
Hills. Okay,
I
so you
did
did
three
heat
and
two,
I did three in Versailles.
right? So he goes up there. He comes up and he said, "Yep, my first race, and I registered twice." And he actually made the A main, and I believe in heat five,
Yep.
but he didn't make it in heat two. And he come up to that announcers and asked me, he goes, "Do I have to go run the B main? Because I don't want to tear up my car." And we're like, "No, you already made the A." And he goes, "Well, I just didn't want to get disqualified for not showing up for the B main." So, um,
That was actually under advice by counsel. Jared Snurich came up to me and he said, "Hey, you might want to go scratch on your B main." I was like, "Really?" Because I did want to run it. And he's like, "Yeah, you want to save your car for the A?" I was like, "Okay," because I would run every race if I could. I would just come off the track and go right back on if I could.
that would get pretty expensive, I'd say.
Well, I mean, if there wasn't that, if it was possible, if it was
Yeah,
physically
and
and mechanically possible.
I'd say more mechanically probably.
Yeah.
But so let's take a step back. What do you think about the old mod compact riding in a derby car?
Um, it if I had to use one word to describe it, that would be epic. I mean, it was nothing like what I've ever experienced. I'm an adrenaline junkie, and that was right up my alley, dude.
Walk us through your ride. How, like, take us through it. Do you remember of your memories of it?
I remember everything about it. You might have to stop me. You might have to red flag me on this. I need to take a drink of water first.
So what's
That was
what's the feeling when you're coming in the track? What was going through your mind? Was this your first time riding in a mod compact?
that was my first time riding in a mod compact. That was my first time meeting Logan Adams.
So take us through your like your feelings that you're feeling when you're pulling on the track.
It
What was
was
going through your mind?
it was a super big roller coaster because Logan was telling me, he was like, "Hey, it's gonna get wild." He said, Are you ready to be a ping pong ball?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure." And he was like, "Yeah, it's gonna get crazy." He's like, "I'm gonna land on top of you, at some point." And he's like, "You prepared for all that?" He was just telling me all this, and I'm like, "Yep, yep, good to go." And pulling out on the track, you obviously get the adrenaline running, and that's why we do this. And I was like, "This is what I came here for." Finally getting to do this. And we pull out there on the track, get all lined up, and Jacob's right there in front of us, flagman. I'm looking right at you guys, and I my expectations were not met at the drop of the green flag, and I don't think Jacob's were either because it was super anticlimactic. It was literally like trying to like shooting a tow missile in the Marine Corps, which I did, but they didn't just all of a sudden hit the gas. Everybody just kind of puttered around. I'm like, what the hell is happening? And I'm like, what are we gonna do? And then they start, hitting together just a little bit. I'm like, this is stupid. If this is gonna be a bag fest, I'm gonna be so disappointed. And then all hell broke loose.
Yeah, that is what they call the sorting of the field. They
I'm learning all
basically
this stuff.
back up and everybody kind of looks around and one guy starts to go and then everything happens. It's just yep. In your video, I honestly I wish I had it. I wish I'd have uploaded it just to think about it. So you're recording and then that first shot comes and your phone went flying.
It wasn't on the first big shot, it was on the second big shot. But on the first big shot, it's got super wobbly because I went with the hit. He told me to go with the hit, so I went with the hit. And then I was like, "Man, this is hard to hold on to. I don't think I can hold on to this phone." And then we got, a rear wheel shot, and that thing went flying into the back. And I said, "Dude, my phone." At the same time, my helmet came off. That was red flag.
Yeah, you're supposed to have those things strapped on.
I was so nervous, I forgot to. I had my neck brace on and everything, and I didn't have my helmet strapped on. And went flying in the back, and we had to find it. And he said, You want to find your phone?" I asked the guy, the flagman that was outside the car while I was putting my helmet on. I said, "Do you see my phone out there?" And he was like, "Nope." I was like, "All right, forget it." And I was like, "Oh, I think my helmet's broke." Logan said, "If your helmet's broke, you got to get out." I said, "I'm not getting out of this damn car." You know what I mean? So I'm gonna make this work, and it actually did work. So I was like, "Awesome, we're back in." But
So
I was
where
like,
was
he's like, "What about your phone?" I said, "Screw it. The experience is worth more than the phone."
yeah. So was this last year or the year before?
That was last year, Mocaine, yeah.
So
Do
how
that 24.
so you got to ride through the final hit. I mean, you were in the winning car.
Yep.
So could you hear the crowd before you got when you guys both backed up at the end of the show?
No. Logan was just asking me if I was ready for this. And I was like, "Yep, let's do it."
Yeah.
There
That's
was,
awesome.
it was tunnel vision looking at Brady's car, and I was like, "This is going to be cool."
Yeah, I'm sure.
It was too. I loved it.
So, all right, let's jump back into the figure eight stuff. So,
All right.
the people that follow the sport realize so you went to Elton last year. You go to the Turkey Fest, or I think it was the Versailles show that right after. Registered for three this time, and you had some mechanical problems this time.
Yeah, yeah, sure did.
So, what's the? Do you have a pit crew, or are you just doing it all by yourself back there? Because here, I mean, I seen you getting tugged off the track, and I said, "Oh, he'll never make it to the next heat he's supposed to be in," and here you come.
Yeah. Yeah, and I had my dad down there. Um, and somebody else was helping, but I can't remember who it was. But yeah, I was just giving directions and doing all the work and you know, get the jack it up, grab me this, grab me that, got it changed out. Let's go. I mean, it's all about getting on that track for me. Whatever I can do to get back on the track, I'm gonna do it because it's so much fun racing with these ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, and so as the seasons progressed, you got better and better. It felt like to me just watching you grow. Talk about some of your trials that you faced as a driver. Just in your first few races, what trials did you have to overcome?
Um, well, I discovered that whenever I'm driving, I either grit my teeth or I'll tuck my lips in between my teeth when I'm focused on driving. When I'm focused on anything really. But I'll grit my teeth and I'll tuck my lips in, and I did that at Mocaine, and I bit down on both of my lips and made them bleed. So now I wear a mouthpiece. So I've upped on my safety to make sure that I'm the type of guy I got to go to work on Monday, and my body has been through a lot. Not saying that everybody else hasn't, but I have to try to keep everything in place. So safety is super important to me, and making sure that I'm safe and my passenger's safe.
Yeah, and you're just to give everybody, you're always bringing people to the track. Like it seems like every race I go to, you're introducing like, hey, this is so and so, and this is Jonathan Wood, or this is the promoters, and these are, hey, this is one of the racers, and I see you walking around the pit area with the people that you're bringing in, and you're
Yeah.
like introducing them not only to the sport but just to the overall culture that they're going to see within the sport, and I think that's really cool.
You know, um, I want to draw a parallel here, but I hang out with a lot of alcoholics and drug addicts, and you know, our mentality is kind of like the same as the derby community mentality as far as like what we like and stuff. I'm like, man, I think you really dig this. I mean, crashing cars and driving fast and all that stuff, it's right up my alley. So I talk about this all the time in like my AA group and when I go to church and at work and at the convenience store, you know. And I invite anybody that wants to come along and experience, this wonderful group of people, that come together as a great community. There's not a single person at that track that would not help me get back on the track.
Yeah.
And that was proven last night. I love it.
Yeah. Well, what happened last night? Let's just talk about this season. We got Joshua Wood joining us now. But
Hey
talk about
Josh.
your season so far. Like, so how'd Russellville go?
Well, coming into the season, getting the car ready for the season, I lean heavily on the IMR team, for advice because, like I said, I don't know nothing, really about racing or cars in general. I've never had really a lot of experience in working on cars. Spent most of my life as a carpenter or working in IT trades. I worked for Charter Communication professionally for about 6 years and Digrite, locating underground utilities for about 2 years. So nothing to do with cars. Come to find out, in Fulton, Tracy told me not to run her because she was overheating and I wouldn't listen. You know, Mom, I didn't listen to mom, and I ran her and blew the head gasket. So I started my season with changing the head gasket, and uh, Tracy was instrumental in that, as well as James Fisher. James Fisher is a real stand up dude. I like him a lot. The whole Fisher family, really, but James answered every one of my questions and helped me through that process. And we got the head gasket changed and got it ready.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, um, let's talk about. All right, so we got that all changed out, and we're going
Yeah.
into New Bloomfield. How? Let's talk about last night, and we'll just talk about how your night went. What heat
My
were
night
you
went my night went great. I was in heat 1 and heat 4.
in? So how did heat one go?
Well, I went out to the track. Um, I made laps. I shot gaps, and I had a lot of fun. And I drove off the track.
Did you win?
No, I don't even care about winning. It's all about having fun, making laps, and shooting gaps.
I know this is the right one.
I don't even pay attention to where I'm at in places.
No, that's not heat one. I'll pull them up later. That wasn't heat one.
So, so if you don't do it to win, what do you do it for?
The adrenaline rush. It's all about that adrenaline rush, chasing that rush.
You know what I
What's
think
that
it's
rush
about?
like? I hear people talk about it all the time. Try to explain it for someone that's never done it.
Explain driving?
The adrenaline rush. Like what's
Well,
everybody chasing? If you're not gonna do it for the win or for fun, like what's the rush feel like?
I put it into terms last night as like, I've hunted for about 20 years, and it's like going out and shooting a big buck every night. That's that's
Well,
I
that's the
don't
feeling
hunt.
I get.
What's that feel like?
Well, your heart starts pounding and you start shaking, you know, and you just get these. It's scientifically it's endorphins. It raises your endorphins. It's something that we enjoy, and I've done a lot of research about mental health and things like that. So to put it scientifically, anything that you do that raises your endorphins, that's that rush that humans chase.
you
Brings us
know,
joy.
I want to share a video with everybody real quick about something I seen happen last night, and I think people, we need more of this in the sport. We need, uh, we need more people like this. This is something that happened last night with John Waller and some kids that were in the stands. And, these kids were up on the fence all night long, cheering on people. They were cheering on Baby Shark. I'm pretty sure that's his fan group.
Yep.
But I'm going to show a video with everybody real quick about just kind of what I got to see last night that I thought is very instrumental to the sport. And it's a great way to get more people involved and to grow the sport as a whole.
Okay, hold on. You had scissors that smashed you, right? You had paper, you covered me up, you had Robert, we're buddies. What you have? Yeah. Okay. Rock, paper, scissors, shoot! Yeah!
10-minute intermission. 10-minute intermission.
So that right there was a video for the ones that are listening. John Waller, after there was a heated argument on the track, between some people, And he made light of the whole situation. He went over to the fans, got the kids' attention off of what was going on behind them. And he plays paper, rock, scissors with these kids. And those kids, you see the smiles on their faces. They were loving every bit of it. These kids were like, at one point in time, I watched one of them kids like do a karate crawl, something. I don't even know how to describe it, to get a part that fell off a car from underneath the fence. And they had all kinds of parts over there stacked up by the end of the night. But tell us about that, John. What made you do that?
Well, shout out to my buddies Logan, Cooper, and Jaden. Those are the three boys I was playing rock, paper, scissors with. They're brothers. um, Remember I talked about I'm in the derby world for a purpose? I believe that that's one of my purposes is, I know that this is as a high passion sport. There's a lot of emotions that go into it, and there's going to be heated arguments, but the kids need to know that that's not what we're all about. You know, of course it's going to happen. It's racing. It happens in any racing sport. There's going to be hostilities. There's going to be people upset, but they need to know that we're all friendly with them. I would like to see more interaction with drivers, with the kids. One of the things I noticed from a fan perspective is, after the A main, the guys that were participating in the A main, they stand out there and they talk about it, but I know you all have all each other's Snapchat, phone numbers, all that stuff. Maybe give a wave to the kids, maybe go say hi to them. They love you guys and they love what you do and they'd like to meet more drivers. They would.
Yeah. I just want to say, awesome job, man. That's something, you touch them kids' hearts that, I mean, they're going to remember that. I
Yeah.
remember when I was a little kid and I would go to the racetrack, and the last race of the year, we would all wear white t-shirts and we'd walk around with Sharpie markers and just interact with the drivers, and we'd all have our shirts covered in signatures. And we thought it was the coolest thing ever, just because our favorite driver or whoever, even any driver, signed our shirts, did
You know,
something, you know.
where it stems from is like I said, in my 9 years of being a Christian, I've done a lot of research, listened to a lot of podcasts, read a lot of books audibly because I don't like to read. And I found out that if I could tell you a little story real quick, where it comes from, the professional soccer player Pele, whenever he gets ready for a match, he goes to the stadium an hour before anybody else shows up, and he'll lay on a bench and cover his face with a towel, dry towel, and lay in the locker room, and he'll visualize and remember what it was like as a kid, playing soccer in his home country with his friends, and how much he loved the sport. And then going to games and stuff with his family, and how much he enjoyed it as a fan, and then he would go into some of his greatest victories, some of his greatest moments, and just visualize all that. And then he would visualize how he perceives this match to go, all the way down to the game winning goal. Right. And so that's what I did. I remember going to St. Francis County Speedway back where I grew up, watching sprint cars. And that was a highlight of my childhood. And so when I get to the track, I'm looking at the stands and I'm like, how can I make this special for these kids? Well, there is downtime if I get broke. If I'm broke and I'm not able to drive off the track, I had my buddy Ray riding with me. I said, hey, can you make sure they get the car off and where it needs to go? He said, yeah. I said, I'm gonna go visit with the kids, and I'm gonna do that every chance I get.
Yeah. Well, I thought that was awesome. And it's time for our next segment. What's your craziest moment on wheels?
I have to pick one.
Yep. Craziest moment
Well,
on wheels.
I'll tell you what. Let's do it like this. I plan on being here more than one time, so I'll tell you about the first one that I remember. Me and my cousin Jason growing up were like he was like my older brother. He was 10 and I was 7. We were at a family picnic at our city park, and that city park had an entrance and an exit down to a creek bank where they had the pavilion. And he said, "Hey, you want to go for a bike ride? Jump on the front of my bike. And I was like, all right, cool. And so I jump on the front, foot peg, front foot pegs, hands on the handlebars, sitting on the handlebars, and he's steering and pedaling. And he goes up the exit, right? And I think he's going to come back down, but no, he goes out into the highway, and we got T-boned by a car.
Holy smokes.
Yeah, I woke up in an ambulance. Had no clue what happened.
Yeah,
That
I'd
was my
say
first. That was my first crazy experience on wheels.
I'd say so. Holy. Yeah. Well, I'm glad you're all right nowadays.
Yeah.
Getting on a bicycle and getting smoked by a vehicle is never a good idea. I mean,
See, that's what I love
never an
about this
outcome anyone
sport.
wants.
That's what I love about this sport. I'm better off in a cage. I've
Yeah.
wrecked everything I've ever been on. I push my limits with everything.
All right. Well, you got any sponsorships or anyone that you want to thank for helping you get to the track?
No sponsorships, just the good Lord. That's the only reason I'm here, being able to do this. But that IMR team is fantastic. I'm always asking them something or having them help me do something weekly. Dylan White got my tires on my expedition. Dustin Thompson gave me a good recommendation on tires because I had no clue what tires to put on to haul a derby car. So Dustin Thompson gave me a good recommendation on Kenda tires. Tracy Snurch gave Dylan all the details that he needed, and he ordered the tires. I went out to a shop, he put them on, and I use that as a learning experience. Talk to Dylan while he's doing tires. I'm always looking for learning opportunities. So pick his brain. He showed me some stuff, and I learn all the time. It's great.
Yeah. And talking about new experiences, I heard that you're thinking about starting a new business adventure. Talk about what you might be having in the works for some people and within the sport.
That I am. I'm led by passion. If you don't have a passion for what you do, then you might as well not even be doing it. I love building stuff, and I actually love tearing stuff apart. So I got a 5 bay shop now. I'm all ate up with this derby stuff, and I discovered that I want to strip cars for guys and gals. I talked with Eric Shores and found out that that's an actual thing, and he gave me some great advice, and I want to pursue that. I've listened to every podcast, and I found out that there's several things that derby drivers don't want to do or don't have time to do. Maybe you want to build a car, but you don't have time to strip it out. And you just want to build it. Get connected with me, and I want to start stripping cars and welding doors and whatever you guys don't want to do. I'm open to doing it.
Yeah, well, I take it from me there. No one likes stripping cars.
Yeah,
So,
I love it.
sounds like take us through the process. So, if I want a car strip, like a 4-cylinder car or 6-cylinder car for figure eight, what are we looking at here?
It's going to vary because different drivers are going to build different ways. So some of them will want it just stripped out to where no wires are cut. Some of them are going to want it stripped out to where all the wires are taken out and they're doing simplified harnesses. Some guys are going to want the engines and transmissions removed. And then of course the mod compacts are going to be different too. And then the big cars, I'll do big cars too. They're all going to be different. It's going to be a case by case basis.
All right. Well, we wish you the best of luck with that. Hey, here in a second, we're going to get some rapid fire questions for you.
Yeah.
But before we get to the rapid fire questions,
hold on, Jonathan. What's a car cost to get stripped?
Well, I've been rolling that around. Like I said, I talked to Eric Shores and found out what he charges, and I want to
We ain't worried about Eric Shores. We want to know what John Waller charges.
I'll probably stay right around the same price, about 200.
What's that? Is that like a derby strip, like motor tranny taken out and all like every bit of wire and all that stuff, or
Yeah, strip
What are
all.
you getting with that?
I'll strip it down to a roller, and I keep all that stuff and just bring it back to your roller
So you
if
keep
that's what
all
you
the
want.
trash and everything then. No
Yeah,
mess
I'll
for
keep it
the
all.
person. Perfect.
Yep, no mess, no glass, no nothing.
You
Awesome.
like doing that?
I love
That's
it.
that's just terrible.
Hey, whenever I was a kid, if I found something that was broke, like a clock or something, I would take it apart to see what it was, how what it looked like. I love learning about stuff, and it's gonna be a great opportunity for me to learn.
Yeah.
We took stuff apart too, but half time we couldn't ever fix it.
Well, that's the best part about it. I don't have to fix it.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. I I hope you'll get a lot of business from that. I know there's definitely a want for that around this area. So
Well, I don't want to just limit it to that either, Joshua. If I may interject, I'm also willing to. I got laid off a couple weeks ago from my regular job, so I got all kinds of time now. Um, but I'll go if you need a part and it's up in St. Louis, I'll go get it for you. I got a couple of wheels for my buddy Logan Adams for the Salisbury show. I got Jonathan a couple of wheels for his daughter's car. You need something, you just hit me up. If it's got to do with Derby, if you don't have time to do it, don't want to do it, I'll do it. If you got a car you want me to strip out for MWFA, deliver it to the track, you just show up in your POV and you run it, and then we'll work out, how it gets delivered to your place, or if you want me to scrap it or whatever. I want to be a full service derby shop for things that guys don't have time to do or don't want to do.
did you say show up in your what? Show up in your
What?
POV?
Personally owned vehicle, yeah.
Oh,
Like
I didn't know what that was.
My point of view over here.
it's from a military perspective, personally owned vehicle.
Gotcha.
Oh, nice.
I forgot
Are you
this is like
ex-military?
I'm no, not ex-military. Once a Marine, always a Marine.
That's awesome. I appreciate your service.
I
Yeah,
Thank you.
appreciate that.
well, you ready for them rapid fire questions?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Here we go. You ready? These are just short answers, or you can make them long. I don't care. All right. Here we go. You ready?
Yes.
All right. Do you have any superstitions? If so, what are they?
No superstitions.
Okay. What's your favorite part of the build?
I don't know yet. I haven't built a car yet, but we do have a couple in the works.
All right. What do you do for a living, or I guess in your case, what did you do?
Carpenter.
Okay.
Carpenter by trade. I've got work, I'm finishing a deck tomorrow, and I'm working with my buddy Ray doing tile, but I really, really want to get into doing derby work full time if I could.
Sure. Okay. Are you on a demolition derby team?
Team Jesus, baby. That's all I need.
That's
I mean,
right.
he provides all my needs. He's provided me the IMR team. He's provided me the Wardenhausens. Being at Blizzard Bash and being able to watch those guys work on those cars, was like drinking from a fire hose. You had the Wardenhausens, adding plate. Derek had to change an engine, unexpectedly. And I waited for good opportunities to ask them questions, and they didn't hesitate to fill me with knowledge. That was great.
Yeah. Who is your biggest fan?
Well, I gotta say the good Lord, that's all I roll with, because people come and go, you know. But I would say now Logan, Cooper, and Jaden are pretty big fans of me.
I'd say so as well. Who's your favorite driver?
My favorite, you got to be more specific with this one because I
You
have
know, like the
favorites for different
person sitting
classes.
behind the steering wheel.
Yeah, I know, but you gotta break it down in different classes.
No. Just
Do we do a figure eight?
You can do NASCAR, you can do Derby, you can do figure eight. If you could put one person behind the wheel of anything, who's it going to be?
Kyle Warrenhausen.
Okay. Do you have a favorite car?
Pinky.
Okay. I like it. All right. Describe your driving style in one word.
One word? Can't be one word. It's got to be adapt and overcome. That's one of the Marine Corps mottos, adapt and overcome, because every time you come around that tire, the situation's different and you have to adapt to it. And that's one thing that I love about it. I love having to make those split-second decisions, man. It's so much fun.
I like that. Although it doesn't fit the criteria, but we'll let it go. That's a good
Whatever.
answer.
I stay outside the lines.
All right. If you could change one thing about the sport, what would it be?
I wouldn't change anything, but I would say, more interaction with the kids. I would like to bring the frisbees back. Me and Dylan Chilton were talking about that last night. I think that's a cool thing. More interaction with the kids. Oh, I had this thought: if somebody's got a couple extra Power Wheels, maybe we could do like a Power Wheels giveaway. They get a ticket at the door. They get like a raffle ticket, and then Jonathan draw before the Power Wheels and get a couple of kids out there involved.
Oh, that is a good idea.
Yeah, that is.
All right.
You could
When
just
and where
do
is
like
your
I got
This
all
is
kinds of great
rapid fire,
ideas.
Jonathan? I was just kidding.
Rapid fire, Jonathan.
yeah,
Stop
that's
it.
right. I'm interrupted.
When and where is your best driving performance?
Eldon Heat 5.
Is that this last year, or
Oh yeah, last season. Sorry, Eldon Turkey Festival Heat 5. That battle against Troy Mitchell was a lot of fun. I loved it.
all right? What's the most important part of the sport to you?
Putting on a show for the fans.
Yeah.
They come out there to see carnage. They come out there to see us. Getting heated. They come out there to see that stuff, and I love being able to put on that show. Because it takes a special breed to do what we do. you know and it's got to be exciting for me from a fan perspective. If I'm going to go to a derby or a figure eight, that has got to be exciting.
All right. What separates winners and losers in your opinion?
Consistency, building to the top of the rules, having a good attitude, and try not to piss anybody off.
If you had one piece of advice for a rookie driver, what would it be?
Have a thirst for knowledge. And no matter how good you think you are, mechanic wise or driving wise, just humble yourself and learn from these people. I read a book called Being Fathered by God, and it talks about allowing men and women to speak into your life and show you things, and teach you things that you didn't know. And it's a real humbling thing going into the derby world, seeing all the metal work that they do and learning all this stuff. And I'm grateful for everybody that's ever taught me anything, and that's everybody I've ever encountered.
Some wise words. Put one driver into the Demolition Derby or Figure Eight Hall of Fame. Who's it going to be?
Kyle Warrenhausen. Dude is a legend in the making. All the Mordenhausen boys are fantastic, as drivers and teammates and fathers and husbands. And I hope that they know that they're living in the good old days right now.
That is yeah, that's I think a really good answer. All right, who's winning the Lucky Sevens, or I guess the Worthy Bail Bonds Figure Eight Championship this season?
Dylan Cardwell.
All right, last one. If you had individual walk-up music, what's playing through the speakers when John Waller rolls into the track?
Eminem Soldier. That's a figure eighting song if I ever heard one. You listen to that first verse and he talks about any hesitation to get you killed. That's like going through the center. And he says, "Go ahead, tempt me, push me, give me a good reason to give this trigger a good squeeze." That's my gas pedal. You know, I'm a Christian. I'm saved, but I'm not soft. And I believe Kyle Wardenhauser said, "I'll race you the way you race me." Charlie Burns spun me in Russellville, so I come up to spin him, and I was going to put him right into the tire, and Dylan was after him too, so we collided. But I'll race you how you race me, and let's go have some fun.
Oh,
I
man.
love it. I love it so much. I think I took a door shot from Alan Shepard. That's a friend of mine from high school. Alan Fisher. Uh, that was my highlight of the night was taking that door shot from Alan.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Great.
that was probably one of my favorite rapid fire segments. You had a lot especially for me, and as new to the sport as you are, there's a lot of kind of golden nuggets. I tell my basketball kids, you're not going to get everything from a conversation, but just listen to little golden nuggets that you can pull from a conversation. There's a bunch there.
And you don't
I
even have to
love
be
the
part of
things
the
you said.
conversation.
Yeah.
You don't even have to be part of the conversation. If you're new to the sport, brand new, just go to every show that you can, figure eight and derby, because you're going to learn something at both of them, right? And so go up there, find a circle of guys, introduce yourself, and then keep quiet and listen to those guys talk. We had a party for Dustin Jordan, and I just pulled up a chair next to the circle, and I learned so much just by listening to Kyle Wardenhausen, Dylan Chilton, you know, uh, uh, Ferguson, the Fergusons, Garrett Ferguson, and Dustin Ferguson. Learned so much just sitting there listening to them.
And how true that is. And it's like any conversation you have, it doesn't matter if they're at the top of the sport or below the sport, or if they're head to head with two different guys. They both have, everyone has something they're really, really good at.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's always something to be learned from somebody else and others, and I love that you have caught on to that. So that's
And
awesome.
I've looked at a lot of builds. Like I was telling Jonathan before you came on, I rode in a lot of cars to figure out if this is something that I could do. I rode in 9 races one night, 7 races another night, and 7 races another night. And just picking these guys' brains, how much time do you got in your build? How much money do you have in your build? What's the best way to do this, that, as we're getting ready to line up, and I rode with some great drivers. I've had some great experiences already in the last year and a half that I've been here. And I just wanted to continue and just have as much fun as I can, with this derby community.
So you're doing all of this, and I've been asking you some softballs. So this is a little bit of a harder question. So you've been doing all this, but you say you don't want to win. Why do all this? Like why try and learn more if you don't want to win? If that's not the end option.
Because I still want to be competitive. I still want to run with the best of them. I don't want to be lap traffic.
Yeah.
If somebody's coming at me in the center, I want to be able to get through, and I want to be able to build a hard car. I want it to be able to take what I'm going to put it through because, you know, I'm aggressive. You know, if somebody leaves a hole, people saw it in New Bloomfield. If you leave a hole, I'm filling it. Right? You leave a hole in that center. I thought it was. I thought it was.
Ricky
No, not
Bobby.
like that. No, not like that. Listen,
No, that's what Ricky said. It was awesome. I love that quote from him
Ricky
too.
said total. No, Ricky said total devastation. He said, I come through the center and you're there. I'm hitting you. I'm not changing my line or nothing. I changed my line. And I hit the hole. I might hit the car, but I'm still hitting the hole. Don't leave a hole. I'll fill it.
Yeah, when Ricky Bobby hits a hole, it's total devastation.
I'm not out to junk anybody, and I'm super apologetic. I broke my axle. I believe it was on Dustin Ferguson, and I made sure I talked to him before I left last night. Made sure that we were cool, because I don't want anybody to dislike me for anything that I do on the track because I'm out there to have fun. Like the Dylan White said in his podcast, it's the most fun I can have. No cops, no insurance, no court dates. I get to go home, and that's what I love about it. I love going out and hitting cars and racing with these guys. It was so much fun.
Yeah, I agree. It was a fun night, and thanks, Joe. We agree. It was a fun night for sure at New
Yeah.
Bloomfield. Well, do you have anything else you want to mention before we get you out of here?
Man, I'm so thankful for everybody from the drivers on up to all you guys. I saw last night, there's guys starting to bring multiple cars, running multiple heats. And Kayla and Jessica did a great job of running the tent, making sure everybody, got signed up, running the computers. Super appreciative of those ladies. Really appreciative of Jacob and Joshua for putting on these shows and dealing with all the stuff that they got to deal with. Because, man, I saw Jacob last night and he was ready to tear out the last of the hair that he's got, you know the drivers and everything. The whole show was fantastic and exciting from start to finish. It had everything that you would want in a show. And if you are any kind of a figure eight fan and you miss Fulton, you're gonna miss one hell of a show because the rivalries are heating up, man. Look, I got my popcorn. I am ready. You know,
He's been waiting all night to say that.
Dude, I've been watching the Facebook chatter all day, and woo, Fulton is going to be, mwah, it's going to be fantastic. You got to come to Fulton. It's going to be a great show. But also Jonathan for all the production. I learned so much by watching the film. I study film. I've listened to every single one of the podcasts. It's a great resource for us to learn and look back on our races and be able to see what we need to improve on. I know you guys, all of you guys, go through a lot. You and your wives putting this thing on, and don't ever think that it's ever taken for granted on my end. It's super appreciated.
We appreciate you for sure. That's
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you said it best, Jonathan. We appreciate you. We're certainly glad that you decided to get behind the wheel instead of just in the passenger seat. But I think that clip that Jonathan showed was emblematic of kind of what you bring right now to the sport. We know you're trying to grow into to be that more competitive soul. But right now, what you're doing just with trying to bring God into more things and diverting attention away from things that shouldn't be brought to light, like what was going on Saturday night. I thought that was super important coming from a driver, not an official or something like that. So it was awesome to see that, and I love seeing someone that's so willing to learn. We were at Lebanon, and I just had to cut a plate off of a car, or I just had
cheater.
I had to cut something off the car. And he just came up and said, "I'm not going to say a word. I'm just going to watch it. I'm just going to watch and learn." And I thought that was so cool. And then you asked a little bit of a question afterwards, which was, totally fine. I'm just glad that you're there and willing to learn. It's awesome to see.
Yeah, yeah. If these guys are working on something, don't interrupt them, or don't climb all over their car without asking them. If you want to learn, wait until they stop doing what they're doing and ask them why they did that. And they'll be willing to tell you. And not only am I, trying to help the kids, get more into the sport, I'm also bringing, I'm super blessed to have Pinky, with the 4-point harness. and it was built to where, Tracy's kids could ride in it. So I could pretty much put anybody in it, and so I had my buddy Ray come ride with me in Russellville, and he decided right there, he's like, I'm building a car, and he drove Heat 6 last night. Nope, nope, I'm sorry. We had to replace the axle and the spindle on the passenger side. He drove in B Main 3.
What was his experience like? Did he love it or?
Oh, he loves it. Yeah, he's all about it, and his son's all about it. He's 15, getting ready to get his permit, and he's excited to start building a car too. So I got other buddies that are interested. Leo Wilson from Sweet Ink, he's thinking about coming out and checking it out. So he'll be in my passenger seat at some point. Look forward to that, and just continue to grow the sport like Hans Anderson did. Big shout out to the La Familia racing team, Hans, Beth, Samantha Chapman, and Sam Hurd. They all helped get me into the sport, and big shout out to those guys.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you're doing big things for the sport. We appreciate you. We
Yeah,
really do.
I'll continue doing it. Every show I can go to and record, get you some content. I know that there's probably people out there that are not able to get to the track. They want to see this stuff. They want to see builds, and what we do is, you know, drivers and promoters and videographers, we bring that to life for them.
Yeah. Yeah. I thank you a bunch. A lot of people don't know, but John, he's drove to a different state just to record a little content and watch a little derby for me. Didn't
Oh
even
yeah.
ask him. He just sends them in the messenger. Here's some content, post it up.
Yep.
So I thought that was really cool. So,
Yeah.
but anyone that listens to this podcast or watches it, I think they're going to be able to feel your passion for the sport and your passion to want to grow in every way. And we appreciate you coming on tonight.
Yeah,
Thanks for
appreciate you
coming
guys
on.
having me.
Yep. Thank you, John.
Thank you guys.
So that was John Waller, driver of the Romans 116 car. Shared a lot about his experiences within the demolition derby and the figure eight world that he's experienced, and you could just hear his passion. It's a great guy, and that video I showed last night, that was just awesome for me, being someone that's also passionate about the sport and wants to see the sport grow. We see a lot of negatives that within the sport that we wish people didn't have to see, and then you got the positives that you see something like that, and we had a negative moment on the track, and then all of a sudden you see this positive moment, and it overshadowed everything that was happening behind them. And to me, that was just the best part of my whole night, other than riding around with my daughter. You want to recap tonight, or you want
to? Up to you. I got time. I just wanted to, just again give my thanks kind of away from. Pretty bad about thanking someone when they're right in front of me, but I'm really good about trying to thank them whenever they're not. But I just can't speak enough about what John does for the sport. He's just a great guy. One of my favorite stories, or at least what, kind of those reels that you have going on in your head about him just being a sponge. But we had that Lucky Sevens Golf Open, and I don't think he's ever golfed before. After he kind of changed his life from where he was to, being a devout Christian, quit drinking and stuff. So he went to this golf tournament where, we kind of promoted that. He just showed up with him and his buddy. I don't think either of them's ever golfed. It's like, I just want to be on somebody's team. Put me on a team. And it was just tough for us to find a team for them. And then, they weren't drinking, and he was just there just to soak up knowledge and just get better. And, he's just super positive anytime you see him. And, just can't thank him enough for being him and for all the stuff that he's bringing to the sport and the good exposure. He's Especially this brings up a good topic, a good segue into what we're going to go into if we recap. But there's so much negative on social media about what happened last night with fighting, or making AI messages or whatever was going on. But then John, anytime he posts something, it's always positive. Trying to get more people into the sport, and I can't thank him enough for just being that positive advocate.
Yeah, we can. I think we can recap. We get it done in 20 minutes or so. Yeah, hour and a half episode. That'll work. Uh, so I've had a busy week, but we're gonna do it. We're gonna power through this thing. And so last night we were in New Bloomfield, Missouri, and the shout out to Corey Burton and the crew with the Lions Club. They worked their tails off all week on the track, and they've had some rain up there, and they worked their tails off trying to get the track the best they could. And we had the best weather. That it wasn't too hot, it wasn't too cold. There was a breeze. The wind wasn't blowing enough to throw the transponder poles down or anything like that. It wasn't crazy, but I showed up and it looked like Tech was going really smooth down in the pits, and everybody, I seen people throwing footballs around. Everybody, there's grills, people grilling, drivers talking to each other about they weren't even talking about like their cars or anything. They were just talking about family life and stuff like that. And anytime you go around, and I don't do a whole bunch before the show because I'm usually late or anything like that. I go ahead and make sure my videos I take a few videos, and then I also I make sure the announcer stands all set up like that. But I don't do a whole lot. I just go around, and I always tell everybody I'm basically like a politician of the. I just go around and talk to people before the derbies or the figure eights, and I catch up with them, and we talk about all kinds of stuff. And just a few takeaways. There was a bunch of people that said, "Hey, I've got friends that have never been to a show. They're coming," and they were walking around down here, and they're just so excited about what they're seeing. They're seeing, a lot of people don't understand the time and effort, the energy that we got into the sport and the family atmosphere at the track, like just the way that people interact. And that was big for me, hearing it for people that are outside, that are just coming in for their first time, seeing the camaraderie at the beginning. I mean, tempers always flare at some point, but sometimes they flare more. But Tech go pretty good yesterday.
Oh, yeah. We actually had a little technical difficulty, so I had to run to Jeff during most of Tech. But Jacob seemed to handle it.
I thought you were just messing with me. You had to leave.
Yeah. I mean, I wasn't in Tech, so maybe it did go pretty smooth because I wasn't in there. I have no idea.
Yeah, maybe that's what happened.
But yeah, I mean, it's the figure eights are such a different atmosphere than derbies, especially pre-show. Kids throwing footballs. You don't have guys wrenching and cutting and stuff on cars. That's not typical. They're just there to really embrace the camaraderie and like, hey, we're going to go out there and put on a show. It's not about me versus you as much as me versus me. And yeah, that's so funny. Josh Craig just put on the comments, Tech went great downwind from Ricky Bobby. That's hilarious.
Oh man, he was talking about how PG kept it on here, and I appreciate it. because he was telling me all about some other stuff. Thanks for keeping it PG, Ricky Bobby. So, when we started out, we had the youth race, or the Power Wheels. We had to do it off over the corner because the track was a little too wet. And sometimes when we do that, I've realized throughout the years that it's best to kind of make sure that the family members of the people driving have a chance to go over there and take their videos and stuff. And so we did start at 7:01 yesterday because I was giving them a minute to walk to the track, but still it seemed like it started right on time. But Power Wheels went over really good. Kyla was an excellent flag person, and looked like we had a couple hard hits in the center, even in the Power Wheels, so that was cool. I heard some crashing and banging over there. And then we got into the youth bump and run. That was our next let's see. I'm trying to see how I got this set up here. Yeah, you're not the only one having technical difficulties, but yeah, so the youth bump and run, we came out and I rode with Rayleigh, and she goes, well, my goal for the day is to get top 5. And they said, well, there's only 5 cars. And then there ended up being 6. And she goes, they're going to let that big kid drive? Because the kid that was in the other one, he was pretty big. And I said, he's probably just a bigger kid, like 15-year-old, 14-year-old. And she goes, well, I got to beat somebody. That's fine. so during the race, we got hung up right off the bat. We started tailback, and we had a good plan, poor execution. She was going to cut underneath that car she was starting next to right after the tire, and she got hung on the back bumper. Looked like Sub-Zero himself and Colt Wood got out to an early lead. Dylan, let's see, not Dylan.
Caleb.
What's Dylan's son's name?
Caleb.
Well, White, he got hung up. Sorry,
Caleb.
Caleb got hung up with wow, this is gonna be bad. I don't have names in front of me. But Caleb and gosh dang it. I'm drawing blanks here. But anyway, the race gets going on. I'll just tell you from my viewpoint, because I'm riding in this car with Rayleigh, and Rayleigh's really been working on her cornering, and I told her we're going to try to get her some tires, and it sounds like she might have got a sponsor. We'll see. I think Hans Anderson's going to give her some tires. She's been wanting grippy tires forever, and she just had her. So she actually cornered pretty good after we got going, but that last lap, she kind of blew it back tire with, I think, 3 to go, and we started hitting. It seemed like to me, I felt like I was in the passenger seat of a bus without a driver because we were hitting everything. And after the race, she said, Dad, I don't know what happened that last lap. I couldn't control it. And she about affected the race. But after the race got over, she still had to hit a tire. And the last few laps of those is bump and runs are rough. And I felt like she had a big part in that. She had a blast. Colt had a blast. He told me during the race that he had some mechanical issues that were keeping him from winning the race. And I'm sorry, Caleb. Caleb messaged me. How do you not remember my name? I am bad with names, Caleb. I'm a coach too for like youth sports, and I have a hard time remembering the people that play on my team for half the season. It takes me a while to remember everybody's names. Probably getting my bell rung a little bit too many times, I'd say. Bad memory. But I think that overall the youth race looked pretty entertaining from the videos that I've seen out there. Special thanks to Mom for recording it, and special thanks to Dylan Cardwell for announcing for me again so I could ride with Rayleigh. One thing about the youth class I will continue to say is every race is different. The kids are learning they have to adjust to different tracks. Rayleigh, my daughter, says that track was different. She said it was harder to learn. Like the corners were different. Everything about the track was different. And you could tell in her mind, she had to make adjustments. And it's kind of like John said earlier. She had to make adjustments to the surface that she is racing on. And we set the car up a little different. We're going to continue to keep trying new things until we find something that works for her. Her new car is going to be probably get it done by the end of the season. That's our goal. But then she'll have a whole new thing to learn. But Camden Tobin, he drove a heck of a race. I thought he got hung up behind Caleb at the beginning, and that kind of put him in a down position. But I think he ended up getting third. Second place was Colt Wood and Sub-Zero tanking home the win. Good job. And it was action-packed for me. I mean, I think we hit every car on the track. So
no, it was a good race. I think Colt and Kurt's nephew Hayden just pretty well ran away with it once Camden and Caleb kind of got tied up together. But Colt, 10-year-old kid, just what do they call it? Dive bombing, basically every corner he could. Put that car through hell. So
yeah, that's crazy. And next up, we had heat number 1. I don't know why my videos aren't working. I've tried posting a couple videos files up there so everybody could kind of see some background action. Something's not working. I didn't have technical difficulties. I don't know what I would have. But,
there you go.
Yeah, this is heat 2. Oh, we'll save this for later. Let me get to my heat 1 here. All right, heat 1. We had Dylan White, Clinton Hartley. I don't know if that's from today.
No, heat 1 was Corey Burton 1, Chilton.
Oh yeah,
Piter going into, I guess it'd be turn 1 for the transfer spot.
Yep. So Corey Burton won heat 1, and Dylan Chilton got second. And Piter and Chilton got edged out. Jake Timbrook, we was out there in his Oh No car. That's pretty cool to see that. I believe that was the old E85 car, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. With some improvements, I think. Certainly in the build. That was the one car I think he got to tech. But
Gatlin Folks, he was a notable started. He went up to the big boys, and he did pretty well. He had some. It looked like he had some jitters out there. He hit some tires, and it looked like he kept putting it into the tires, going around the corners. He was really hugging them. I'll give him that. But Joshua Craig and Jordan Piter, they had a pretty good race going there. Baby Shark, his whole back end came off his car, like his whole rear end came off during this race, and somehow they got that thing welded back up and put back together. Put back together for that. And I just want to shout out to these guys. They put on a show in Heat 1. I'm sorry I wasn't able to share the video with you guys, but Heat 2, we had Anthony Wells. He jumped out to an early lead. Johnny Edgar, he really caught up to him. They were having a really good race between them two, I felt like. And Clinton Hartley, he was out there. He was doing pretty good for a while. And a notable point in this race is right up here. I don't know if you guys are going to see it or not, but if you notice, the track's starting to dip out. And like John said earlier, you got to make adjustments on the fly in this sport. And if you watch the leaders, they really adjust to the turns see how they're starting to go a little wider as the race goes on, because that bottom by that tire was just turned into a sinkhole. And great job by them two. They did a really good job. And I felt like that Robbie Kelly, he was running some really fast laps. He just ran out of time in this one. Hunter Bish, I don't know if his car was running perfect yet or not. It still sounded like it was missing a little bit to me. But
hey, can we go back to Heat 1? I think you missed out kind of the move of the race there was Chilton kind of getting a little aggressive with Piter there going into turn 1 and 2. I think Piter was letting up for Corey Burton. I think that, new Bloomfield buddies, and whenever he let up for Corey, I think Chilton put his nose in there and kind of nudged him up a little bit and got underneath of him and got in that transfer spot. So I thought that kind of started off the night that, hey, this race means, a lot, and we're not, friends can be friends, but what happens out on the track, it may get a little rough. So
yeah, speaking of rough, Heat 3, man, that was entertainment is what that was. It started, I felt like this started the night, of a snowball of effect of events that took place the rest of the night. But Heat 3, there was some beating and banging, rubbing is racing. They were battling for spots. I should have, yeah. The thing is, this thing don't. Yeah, I don't know if it's going to even load.
You just got to be patient, dude.
Well, it ain't that. I can't see. That's my problem.
Is this the Charlie Burns Heat?
Yep, Charlie Burns' Heat. And so
Dude,
Charlie
had that freaking boat moving so well.
Yeah, he did. He was out there. So Charlie started out really good. He was having a really good race, and he got a little impatient, it looked like to me. He kind of drove up on the dirt mound and cut across in front of a driver and kind of got pushed around and spun out. So Blaine Tobin, he drove a really smart race. He kind of hung back behind Charlie. He picked his time. He just waited for the right moment and slid underneath of him and kind of drove off. There was like the second lap, there was a big pile up in that opposite corner, and it got Dustin Ferguson all piled up. Dustin Jordan was in there, and how about I think Thomas McCormick was too, but how about Josh Powers making the A? I mean, he had to battle for that. I think he thought him and Dustin Jordan was driving for the win because he hit Dustin twice, I think, and then Dustin tried giving it back to him at the very last corner, but wasn't enough because he just said, "Bring it on, baby." Had his hand out the window as he was finishing, and that was so. Congrats, that moved on. That set up heat number 4.
Who was
Heat
throwing their
3,
hands up? Was that Dustin Jordan?
Huh?
Was Dustin Jordan throwing their hands up?
No.
I
When
heard he
Josh
was
Powers
driving
crossed the
I
line,
heard
he
he
had
was
the number
driving
1
recklessly.
signal hanging out like he won the race.
Oh, Charlie's person was?
Huh?
Who was doing that?
Josh Powers.
Oh. Well, yeah.
He got
I mean,
second.
good for them for getting a transfer spot. That was awesome. I was
Yeah.
happy to see that.
Maybe he did know it was for the transfer spot, but he drove a good race, and sometimes you got to move him out of the way. Oh gosh, the comments are starting to roll in now. Oh, this must be Josh Powers right here. Thought I was fighting for the win. I really did, he said. Caleb Dean, yep. I didn't remember his name. He made sure to comment on there. So, but that was an entertaining.
I really thought
really
Charlie had the car to beat this race. Just like you said, Blaine did a good job, kind of just hanging back. I think he knew that they were taking. He obviously knew we were taking 2, so he was like, "Yeah, I'm fine with riding second. If he makes a mistake, he's there to capitalize on it." I think Dustin Jordan kind of took him out, I guess, from what I hear. So I don't know.
I haven't heard nothing. I don't even know if I can accurately cover all that's happened on the great world of Facebook today because I haven't been on it at all. But from what I hear, it sounds like it's there is a little drama, and
it all looked like racing stuff to me. I don't think anybody was doing anything intentional. Just like our guest on earlier said, there's every corner is something different, and you have to adapt and overcome. So there's split second decisions every day, every corner that has to be made. Right or wrong. So.
Yep, he was like that T-Ray truck and just delivering loads. Nice hat, Josh. We'll like it.
Hopefully I'll be delivering.
Well, that brought up heat number 5. Heat 5 was probably the best. Would you say the best heat of the night? Or no, that wasn't heat 5.
Well, I mean, if we want to skip over heat 4.
Oh, was it? Yeah, heat 4. Sorry, I got my heats mixed up. Heat 4 was the heat of the night, in my opinion. Man, this was from a racing perspective, this was the heat of the night because we had Nathan Dummermuth, James Fisher, and Robbie Kelly. They had a photo finish for, James and Robbie for that second place transfer spot. And so the way this shook down was pretty impressive because Nate ended up coming back and winning this thing. But if you watch the video, it's actually on. That one's on live on there. Let me see if I can. I wish I could. Oh, I figured this out. Bear with me for just a second.
Yeah, this was definitely my favorite heat of the night. I think Nate made a last corner pass on both. I think he came from third to first, just
Yeah.
getting underneath both Fisher and Robbie Kelly. So
Yeah, for some reason my videos aren't supported tonight for some reason, but
I think you got crappy service or something. Like your internet's slow, or I'm not sure what's going on.
I'm on Wi-Fi. Maybe I should be hardwired next time. Maybe I'll try that. But yeah, it was a really good race, and Robbie Kelly had it won. He pushed a little high that last corner, and Nate snuck underneath of him, and Fisher about did too. And man, that was a finish. But I think, was it Dustin Ferguson that lost the wheel during this race, or no? That was in the B when the wheel got lost. But John Waller, he had a good run. He got fourth place. Fifth place was Garrett Ferguson. Tony Cardwell. It was good to see him back out on the track. He blew a tire right off the bat, and he just kind of, he thought it's not worth it. I'm not really going nowhere. He just pulled off out of everybody's way and let the race happen and pulled off the track because, and sometimes that's the best thing to do. You don't affect the race any, and you don't damage your own car or anyone else's in the process. And sometimes you just have bad luck, and he pulled off. But it was good seeing him back out there. All right, we're ready for Heat 5 now. Heat 5 was Lane Tiggerman, Ronnie Burton, Alan Fisher, Chad Bish, Ricky Bobby off that freshly tagged 4TT head on his car. So he had his car at the IMR shop this last week, and they did a bunch of work on it for him, and it sounded, he said it's worked pretty good for him. So Josh Womack, Dylan Cardwell, and Nick Long. Nick Long coming from the back, started in the very back, came all the way up through the field to win it. And Dylan Cardwell kind of followed him up through the field. They both started the very back, worked their way up through traffic lap after lap. And Chad Bish had it won, but he broke his axle going around the tire.
Did you see Ronnie in this race kind of block? It looked like he was kind of trying to block Dylan Cardwell so Nick could win. I don't know.
I don't know what happened there.
I don't know what that was.
We seen it happen, though. I mean, it was right in front of us. We didn't know what was going on there. He definitely blocked him.
I don't know what that
got
was.
in the way. There must have been some trash talk or something before the race, and he was like, I ain't even gonna let this guy transfer on if I can't. So he about did too. He about blocked him enough to where
he did. He blocked Dylan enough so Nick could win.
Huh?
Said he blocked Dylan enough so Nick could win.
Yeah.
So I don't know what that was about. Or at least that's what it looked like. Maybe Ronnie was just being Ronnie. I don't know.
Well, that brought out heat number 6. We had Dylan Chilton. What do you think about that old paint scheme, the red and blue, number 99? Years ago, that was his. That's like the first paint scheme I can remember. It probably wasn't, but
was it?
From what I remember, that's like when I first, I remembered him coming on that red and blue 99 car that he had. So that was cool. V6, I know you love that. He had that thing dialed in from the start. That thing was on rails. Chilton was out there. We had old John Summers. Dylan White, Jared Snurich, Dawson Gump, Dylan Cardwell. And Dylan White won this heat, and they said, yeah, he got put on the IMR wall. Someone told me if you win your heat, you get put on the wall in the shop. So he's on the wall now for like good job. I guess he got a gold star or something like that. But Dylan White won this one, and Jared Snurich.
I think Chilton just had this one won and just pulled off because he didn't want to take a transfer spot.
Yeah, I didn't know what happened there. I thought his car broke or something, but he was out the whole race. Like, he had it in the bag, and Joshua Craig said, most entertaining went on the wall first. So, but most entertaining went on the wall. So apparently he was entertained. That must have been for something else. He got put on the wall. But it was nice to see the sleeper back out there, Dawson Gump. He seemed like he was doing pretty good that race. But, okay, Loto. I got it. From last week, he got put on the wall. That's what they're telling me. Makes sense. But, yeah, in this one we had Dylan White ended up winning. And I wonder if Chilton knew that the winner of the heats got trophies. I wonder if he'd have pulled off if he knew that. So, special thanks to, I believe, JP Lawn Care provided some sweet trophies for all the heat winners and the winners of each different class. These trophies were awesome. They had pistons on the top. I would have liked to have one of them in my trophy room, but it looked pretty awesome. Special thanks to him on that. Well, so we had 6 heats. The top 2 moved on. For the ones that just watched the podcast, we had 6 heats. The top 2 moved on. They did the lucky dog thing as well this week. So it was the same as we had at Russellville. So that brought up the B mains. And the B mains is one. You had to win to get transferred on in the B mains. And anytime you have 14 guys or whatever fighting for one spot, they put it all on the line. They shoot gaps that they normally wouldn't shoot. They, maybe they'll fill a hole that needs filled, as Ricky Bobby says. So sometimes that carries over. But in B main number 1, Joshua the Magic Man Craig getting it done, coming home with the win. Coming in second, we had Braden Cleathermos. Third place, Jordan Piter got third. So I thought Brenton Holosharp had a pretty good race in this. He really tore up some stuff throughout, at the end of this race. But he asked how he did, and I never got back with him because I was really busy today. I just want to say I thought you did good, Brenton. I forgot to get back with you. So Josh Craig, man, he almost blew this one. He drove up on the dirt mound I don't know if that was the white flag lap or the lap before the white flag, but I thought for sure he was going to get stuck up there or something was going to break when the car came back down. But he he won, and it was a pretty good race between him and Braden and Jordan, the track was really starting to, it looked like to me it was starting to come around for these guys. Joshua Craig said, them V6s don't mind them holes. I've been on the berm every time with them. So B main number 1, Josh Craig went. Did you convince Jordan to go out there or anything? Like, I didn't know if he was even going to race the B because I thought he was using his feature pass. And
Yeah, I mean, he said, what would you do? I said, I'd run, but we're not telling people they should or shouldn't run. But I mean, looked like the track was the best it had been all night. We talked about Corey working that track all week. I know him and his guys have been on that. I know Corey's did a lot of it himself. Still felt a little soft, just even out there, setting up the track and getting the transponder set up. So we knew we were going to have to struggle with, it rutting up real bad. But I think it was that Show Me Mowing Snow. They donated some equipment. They worked that track all intermission. It was 15 minutes or so, and they worked it down, watered it. I know we had struggles with the water truck again, just it not getting running. But coming out after the concerts, was like, it looks good, Jordan. I mean, starting up front, might as well just see what you got. But just like Waller said, shit comes. You got to make a decision every corner. I think he got hung up like right off the bat and just had to fight back. And Craig, kudos to him. He took the opportunity and ran with it, and had to have Braden and Jordan try and run him down, and they just didn't have enough for that V6.
Yeah. Well, B main number 2 came out, and boy, there was some fireworks. James Fisher, man, he drove a phenomenal, I can't even say it right, but phenomenal race. He was shooting gaps, and he looked like a man on a mission. It looked like to me he could put that car anywhere he wanted to put it, and it would go, because he was bobbing and weaving through traffic. He was shooting gaps. There was moments of this race I didn't even know, like, I didn't feel like anyone could catch him. Dustin Jordan, he broke early. It looked like him and Charlie Burns were kind of in a pushing match over there, but he broke. I don't know what broke on his car, but it was real early. Them tires that Zach Burton had on his car, they just weren't. It looked like it was having a hard. They were sinking in the track too much, and it was pulling the whole rear end. Yeah, and he had a broken foot. James Fisher had a broken foot, and he still wheeled that thing to the A main. And Burton, it seemed like every time that car would get going good again, it would die. And you could tell he just had to hold it to the floor. And at one point in this race, he just held it to the floor and took out whoever was in the center, and that was Charlie Burns. He gave him a big old shot right in the center. There'll be a reel of that one coming up pretty soon, but I mean, he laid into it.
Gas, like I don't know. I don't know if they were. I don't know what the story behind that was, but I heard him mention he kept running out of gas, and they kept dying on him. So,
yeah, it felt like it was just he had to hold it wide open or something, and then it would just die. And then he'd fire it up, and you just hear him hold it to the floor, and then it'd die again. So, We had
Wisconsin was
Dustin
awesome to
Ferguson.
watch. Before you move on, just they were turning some quick laps. It looked like Tony was trying to reel him in and was doing so. I think he was running that old car of his, like, his first build. It's like sometimes that thing just looks so slow, and then other times it looks like the fastest car on the track. And it looked like the fastest car on the track during the Conti, and I don't know if that started to stem some of the frustrations that we've seen after this one. But yeah, you had a good run on trying to, reel James Fisher down, which is never never an easy task, knowing how fast James always is, whatever he's driving. I think he ended up having the second fastest lap in the whole night out of this deal, and he was still getting reeled in. Seemed like by Tony. So fun to watch for sure.
And then we had Landon Dow. He had a solid run as well. He ended up third place in that B main number 2. Dylan White was out there, and Baby Shark Wather was out there as well. And there was some stuff that happened after the race, and I don't know nothing about anything that happened, so I couldn't even bring it on here and tell you because I don't know. But all I know is people get heated up and tempers flare, and that's what happened. So I don't know what it was about or anything like that, but it sounds like there's a lot on Facebook for everybody. But James Fisher, good job on B main number 2. B main number 3. Come out there, and Chad the hot shot drove like a hot shot would. He just did really well. He looked like a seasoned, he is a seasoned veteran, and he just looked like he always does. Calm, cool, and collective. There wasn't much cars running at the end of this one. It was really just Chad and Jared, 2 veterans of the sport. They stayed out of everyone's way, and just Chad had a little bit faster car that night. Jared was making good corners and stuff. It just looked like Chad was getting a lot better bite off the corners. So good job, Chad. Set up in a great A main. I don't know what it is about New Bloomfield, but we always have really good races at the end of the night. Like, the track seems like it gets better and better as the night goes on every time. And we end up with some really good racing. And the A main did not disappoint. So, funny story, just for everybody that's listening. So, Josh Womack, he messages me like, I don't know, 3 or probably 2 days before Saturday, so probably Thursday night, he messages me and says, do you have to have a halo? I said, no, but I'd put some kind of support up to the roof just in case you roll. And he goes, oh, I ain't gonna roll. And he rolled over, and I went down there after the race. I said, hey, isn't that crazy that you rolled over and you said, oh, I wasn't going to roll? So he said, man, I couldn't believe that crap. So I just, it seemed like to me, I think we did 4 or 5 laps of this race where everybody was on the same corner. Like, no one got lapped. Everybody was right there. You'd see a driver bobble, make a wrong decision, like how they were going to take the corner based off of what the people were doing in front of them, and they would lose 3 spots in one corner just because they chose the wrong path. And it was really, for me as a fan of figure 8 racing, I was like, this is awesome. Because you knew eventually they were going to catch the back of the pack, and then the center collisions come But from the racing standpoint, I mean, these guys were flat getting it, every one of them. And we had a couple people that broke. The Island White broke in the center there. That is never a good spot to break. And they took a heck of a shot. Old Tracy is riding with them. She took a heck of a shot over there. But I want to mention, how about Robbie Kelly, man? He's really starting to, seems like to me, he started 10th place, made it all the way up to 5th place, and him and Jordan Piter, he started tailback on a pass, and he made it all the way to 7th. Them two looked like they were really making up some ground on our leaders throughout this race, and kudos to them. They were really picking the right spots, and seemed like their cars were hooking up really well. But Chilton, I mean, he drove a perfect race in my eyes. I mean, he's a hell of a driver, and that's all you can say. I mean, he had that new car on rails, and it seemed like he was making the right decisions when it comes time to make those decisions, where to, which hole to pick going through the center, which route to take around the tire. It seemed like to me he was making all the right decisions up there.
Yeah, no. Put him behind a V6, you're not going to beat the kid. That's all there is to it. No, I mean, I obviously say that tongue in cheek, but he had the car to beat. He's obviously one of the drivers to beat. I think he just got out there in the whenever that rollover happened, he had just got the lead from trying to think of who he passed for the lead. I can't remember right off the top of my head, but he just passed him.
Well, it was him, Nick Long, Cardwell, Burton.
It's like everyone is on the same lap, just kind of like you were saying. But he had just passed the leader. I think maybe it was Nick. But after that, I mean, he did make a couple mistakes and was just able to, kind of wheel his way out of it.
And Nate and Blaine, they were right there too. Did you see that move that Blaine made right in front of us when he drove up on the dirt mound, pretty much?
Oh,
so he was coming through the center. I tried showing the video of it because I do have a video of this freaking driving excellence right in front of us. He's coming through the center, and like cars bunch up, and then he takes a shot from somebody, and it flings him like nose first right into the dirt mound. And as he's sliding, I don't know if he like locks up his e-brake and throws it in reverse, but somehow his tires are like spinning backward, like he's already in reverse, and as he's sliding forward, he's spinning in reverse. He's locking up the e-brake, and he slings the whole front of his car around and goes straight where he was going. I mean, within a split second, it was amazing. And I seen it, Blaine. If you watch this podcast, I don't know what you did, but that was freaking sweet. Right in front of us, and the little fan group, the kids, the Baby Shark fans, I'm gonna call them that. They were just like going, yeah, they seen it all happen. They were loving it, every second of it. And that, if you're listening to this podcast and you got kids that are into motorsports or anything like that, they're into tractors, get them out there to the next event, because them kids were eating up every bit of this event. You look down the line, I was getting song request after song request from all these little kids. They're all dancing throughout the show to different music, and they're just having the best time. And but back to the race, man. Nate had a really good race. I mean, everybody that the top four, they're all right there. I mean, a couple more bobbles, and I mean, get hung up one time, and that's
Yeah, I think that, we had it. We were talking not last week, but last race about just how many people was on the lead lap. I think there were 7 last race at Russellville. I think there were 7 this race. Just, and it doesn't seem like, you see NASCAR being off the lead lap is a huge deal, but it used to be pretty common when there was just like 1 or 2 on the lead lap. But this race seemed like, everybody was just right there. I mean, Chilton did run away with it, but everybody else after that was just, it was just a big group. I think Corey passed Nate right at the last corner there to make his way from fourth to third, and Robbie Keller was right behind him, and then just got freaking waxed. I mean, the strut left the chat by Cardwell. I mean, just hit him perfect. I don't know if he was trying out Bluetooth struts or what was going on, but that thing was toast after that collision on the last lap.
Yeah, for sure. Speaking of Bluetooth, Baby Shark, he donated Bluetooth speakers and stuff like that to the youth class, and the powder puff. He donated a pretty cool water bottle too. So special thanks to him for that. I always love when the extra donations come up and stuff like that. So, yep, that brought us to the powder puff. Angie Burton did what Angie Burton does, and there was a moment in that race I thought it was going to get kind of wild because I know you do too, because you seen it. The Queen got into her quarter panel a little bit, and then it was screw race, and I'm going to try to really ramp into her the next time through. And Angie did not. She's just a little ahead of her. So, but I seen it. Oh, if the Queen took a couple more good corners, there might have been a bumper fed to her. So, but shout out to Carly. Yeah, Carly got second driving Baby Shark's car, and she did really good. I believe that was her first time driving a car, so she did really good. Yeah, after the race, yes, for some reason a helmet went flying on the track. I don't know why. So,
yeah, I mean, these girls stress me out. I mean, kudos to Lexus. She doesn't back down. Angie's not going to either. And they got a nice little rivalry going there, and I just stresses me out.
Yeah, but all in all, thanks everybody that come out to New Bloomfield. I felt like it was a really good show to attend, to be at, to drive in, everything like that. I feel like everybody, for the most part, had a lot of fun. So, just remember, the only thing I will say, just remember, there's a lot of kids that look up to you guys out there. There's a lot of fans that come to every one of these shows that look up to you guys as professional drivers, and remember to carry yourself professionally, because everything, all the professionalism, it attracts sponsors. It attracts, good things for the sports, but negatives push us right back down. and we're always trying to take another step forward and make it bigger and better, but it's hard to do that if there's a bunch of negatives. So just try to remember that, guys. We look at you guys as professionals, and well, I do anyway. And these kids, they're watching. They really look up to each and every one of you drivers. You guys are their favorites. Every one of them's got their favorite drivers. They're watching that one driver, how they're acting. They're wanting pictures with these guys. They're doing all kinds of stuff. So in closing, I felt like it was a really good show to watch. It was great racing. We had a little couple racing issues that happened, and just remember that you can't avoid all the crashes in figure eight. So that's all I got to say. Anything else, Joshua?
No, we can touch on this with, a different audience, but I think you said it pretty well. I think a great race is going to get overshadowed by some actions that should have never probably taken place. I know, drivers are going to, say that they were in the right, and everybody else is going to say the other were in the right, or whatever the case may be. I think this sport is, and not to single out women or anything, but like it's a manly sport. Like you handle things like men, and just even like Tracy Schnurr, she'll tell you the same thing. Like handle it on the track, and if you decide to handle it off the track, it needs to be handled off the track like it should be, and not all this extra junk on social media and all the extra stuff. So yeah, we'll have the conversations that need to be had. Overall, I think it was a great night of actual racing. We just need to keep the other stuff as other stuff and let it be very rare in our sport. I know there's places for it where it needs to happen, but I think last night a lot of that extra stuff was just egregious and disappointing from a race fan and promoter's standpoint, where races were freaking awesome again at New Bloomfield. The fans are right there, like it's right on the track, like that video you showed. John Waller was playing, rock, paper, scissors with kids. There's not a huge distance, which is, unique in venues. The fans can hear everything that the races are yelling about on the track, which is, again, unique, but it's an intense experience for the fans. So we just all need to be cognizant of that.
Yep. Yeah, because how great was that a couple of years ago? We got to experience the positive. We had a photo finish, and every single one of them drivers were standing on their hood congratulating each other. Every single fan heard them congratulating, shaking hands, and it was positive. And that's what we like. That's what any fan's going to tell you. Any true fan's going to tell you, that's what we want to see. We want to make it bigger and better. So, but
yeah, I'll close with this. I thought it was a great event. I can't thank Corey Burton enough for all the track work, and he even joined the Lions Club just to keep this event going. They wanted to give it away. Corey said no. He's a member of that community. He's a racer. He works his tail off. New Bloomfield guys, Jordan Piter stepping up from his business, donating trophies, throwing out shirts, all of that stuff. Baby Shark donating the extra stuff to the kids. It was awesome to see that kind of community support. I just love to see that. Can't thank everybody.
One more thing. How about them checks? That was cool. I didn't even know about those.
Those checks were awesome. if you want to hear an awesome story, ask Jordan about the ask Jordan Piter about the first iteration of those checks. They are a sight to behold, but they got them right eventually.
What, they sent him a checkbook?
No, you just have to ask him. I mean, he got them done by the he made them right. It wasn't anything Jordan did, but the guy that did them made them right. So I'll just leave it at that. The first iterations were interesting to say the least.
All righty. We'll have to ask him. But thanks, everybody, for another episode of the Crashed It podcast. We appreciate every single one of you guys for joining us, and we appreciate, everybody that keeps giving us feedback and keeps following the sport and making it, offering to make it bigger and better. And, there's people reaching out for, asking if kids need sponsorships and stuff like that. And that's great. I mean, that's something that no one ever expects. And we really appreciate just seeing, there's people that want to be involved in this and they want to make it better. But thank you all for tuning in for another episode. And we'll catch you next week on the Crash It podcast. Go out there and send it.